Hey team, welcome to another edition of the Rugby League Lounge Weekly Show. And today I am joined by Joel. I had to go solo last week as we were pretty crammed schedule wise, but he's back. Don't worry, he hasn't ditched us. But hey, we won't speak too soon. He'll be wanted by many others shortly. So, Joel, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, good mate. Not sure about wanted by others. I think probably most people are sick of me by now, but the channel's flying, growing and growing considerably. So huge shout out to any of your viewers that have given us a follow and given us some love. I'm sure there's a few. So much love to those guys. And yeah, once again, you guys, you're doing great. And I did enjoy the solo one last week. It was good to not listen to something and had my voice in it. It always just sounds a bit cringe when you listen back and you can hear yourself. So yeah, that was a not pleasant surprise.
Yeah, no. I completely agree, man. I love talking about footy, hearing myself talk about footy, not so much. Guys, we're gonna kind of do a little bit of a game today. It's who's most likely game. I've found a way to kind of talk about the three stages where teams are at the season. The first stage, teams that are really thinking about 2022. The second stage are ones that are still fighting to make the eight. And the next stage as well, Premiership, the ones that have Premiership on their mind. So before we get started on this game, I just want to really give a huge shout out to my friend Griffin Neem, being from the coast in Greymouth, New Zealand. Me and Griffin have been pretty good mates. We went to the same primary school, same high school. He was a little bit younger than me, but played a little bit of sport together as well. And he moved over to Townsville. Well, he got signed up by the Cowboys about 15, I believe, at a West Coast tournament. And look, he was a talented player, but I think everyone was caught by surprise just because he was so young. And man, he has, as you can tell, he's really made the most of it. He's gone over the Aussie, obviously, with everything that's gone on with COVID and whatnot. He's been over there for a good 2 years, really grinded it out. Hasn't been easy, but he's making his debut this weekend. He'll be coming off the bench. He can play on the edge and in the middle forward, but he's a really good player. He was always one of the better players growing up, but he wasn't a guy that was going to break 50 tackles and do the highlight stuff, but he was so good at the fundamentals and just a really good tackler. And to be fair, like looking back at it, I shouldn't have been surprised where he is today. A hard worker, did all the simple things right, and really excited to see him make his debut this weekend. So if you're listening, Griffin, well done, mate. And for your listeners, Joel's giving you a big clap too, mate. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing your debut, mate. You'll kill it.
Can I ask a quick question?
You may, mate. You may.
I don't know much about this bloke. What position does he play?
He was very much an edge forward when he was playing down here, but he has the ability to be anywhere in the four pack. He has got a nice little subtle playmaking game that I think you kind of just adapt playing here because you get thrown into different positions a lot. So he's got a nice pass on him. His best mate, Brad Campbell. Him and Brad had like the best combination on the edge. They just knew each other inside and out. So he knows how to run a good line, but once he's gone over there, man, the amount of weight and muscle he's put on, unbelievable. So he can throw it around the big boys and on the edge. So it'll be really interesting, but I think he's really going to suit the Cowboys, looking for kind of someone with a bit of mobility as well. He's got a good combination of size and just the ability to use his size to his full advantage. So yeah, to be honest, man, expect him probably to come on the middle. But I could see him playing on the edge as well.
Might whack a few dollars on any time try scorer. There we go.
Well, yeah, hey, you didn't hear it from me, but it would be a good little bit. But hey, sadly, we're gonna have to talk about the Cows coming up. So the first question out of these bottom teams, now we've got the Broncos, the Bulldogs, the Cows, who I think are mathematically ruled out of the top 8 equation. Now, who else do you believe? Let's just get this out there. Who else do you believe does have no chance of making the finals? Obviously, I think the Tigers are 13th, the Warriors are next, and look, the Dragons, I think they're one above these two teams, but you can probably put them in that category as well. Who would you class in that? Start thinking about 2022.
I'd say from Dragons down. Dragons, obvious reasons. They're just shot. Warriors, just so much has happened. I feel sorry for them, but it'd be almost done. If they can make the finals from here, that's probably one of the greatest stories in rugby league history, because the stuff that they've gone through is incredible. And the Tigers, I don't know if the documentary is doing them any favors at the moment, but they're shot. So a pretty embarrassing situation where that club's at. And as you said, obviously Cowboys, Broncos, and Dogs are thinking about next year and probably beyond that as well. So it's got to be probably those six.
Yeah, those I'm fine with that. Honestly, I think I had a feeling we're going to come to that conclusion. I was kind of, a little bit like, obviously they're below the Dragons, but I was a bit more optimistic on the Warriors. But I will throw them in, just everything they've had to deal with. But they've proved the last 2 weeks, that I tipped them not to win those games, and they've got the Dogs this weekend. But I do. Let's go with them 6. So out of those 6 teams, we'll kind of go on the the not so good scale. Who is most likely to be struggling again next season? Now, there's actually interesting because a lot of these teams improving from the signings that they've already made. So, who would you pick to be struggling again this next year?
I'm just quickly scrolling to see who they've all signed and things like that. I'd have to say at the moment, depending on what they do is the playing roster, is probably the Tigers. They'll probably struggle the most. And for mine, a close second would probably be the Dragons. And maybe the Broncos, because they're harping a lot of pressure on Reynolds. And if he goes down, they're back to the issues that they've had the last few years. So if Reynolds does succumb to a season-long injury or a long-term injury early on, you can see them having some issues. The Dogs, they should improve from where they are. They're at the bottom, so they have to improve. I just don't think they're going to improve anywhere near as much as people are saying next year. They need a year to gel with all those new players, and they will definitely go up a little bit, but I don't see them being a top 8 side next year. So I'd have to say Tigers and Dragons, and then the Broncos.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. It's funny because it would have been interesting if we kind of said the Tigers and the Dragons, fall into that, can still make the 8, because I would have felt, oh God, these teams actually very optimistic for next year. But look, I think for me, it is a toss between the Tigers and the Dragons. And look, I'm optimistic on how, I've really been impressed by Adam Dewey, and I don't know where he's going to be thrown in, but I'm optimistic on how Jackson Hastings is going to go next year. It could change the dynamic of the attack, and also the decision with Madge. Now, Madge is an interesting coach. I haven't been watching the Tigers' tail, but there's a method to his madness. Has it been working here? No. But at the end of the day, he's a premiership winner. So that's got to create a little bit of, give a little bit of credit, I guess. Yeah, I do think the Dragons, there's nothing really for me that screams out like they're going to improve next year, but they were in the 8 for a good portion this year. But I think they're really this whole barbecue incident is going to carry over a bit. I think there's going to be still rumblings going on. I think Ben Hunt has been tremendous this year. He's proven me wrong as halfback. Still believe he should be hooker, mind you not. But I think he'll be just disappointed by how his team has responded this year and everything that's happened, especially starting the season. Shocking all of us, really. Wooden spooners in my eyes at the start of the year. But they've done themselves just justice, really. It's been really bad. And look, I just don't know how they get better. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any big signings. I know they're bringing in George Burgess to finish this year. Look, even if he's going on next year, I'm not too sure if that's enough for me. So for me, I've got to say the Dragons will be struggling. But it's funny because a lot of this year they weren't struggling. So yeah, we probably might touch on the Broncos shortly, but we'll kind of look a little bit more on the, the optimistic. Optimistic must be my favorite word today. I think I've said it about 10 times. But we're going to look at who is most likely going to be a top 8 team next year. out of these sides that we've named off, out of the 6 sides? Is there anyone that sticks out, or do you have a few kind of that you can throw into the hat, Joel?
I'd say the Warriors for mine. The Cowboys, I know they've added Townsend and Hiku for next year already. There's just something for mine missing still at the Cowboys. I just can't get a read on them like I had this year at the start of this year. I couldn't read them. I just kept thinking about where they'd finish, and I had no idea. I thought they could finish edge of the 8 or they could finish down the bottom, and they've had pretty much that season. And I just don't think any of those teams, as I said, the Dogs will go up there, but I just don't think they're a top 8 outfit yet. There's too many changes there, so it's just too rocky for mine. So I'm going to have to just say the Warriors, the heart that they've shown, and surely next year they get to go back to New Zealand, surely, because if they can do that, I think that'd be a massive advantage for them because they haven't been there for 2 years. Every week they get to play there is going to be huge. The ground to be rocky, and that'll give them an extra 2 or 3 tries a game, I reckon. So they'll win majority of their games over there. They've now got practice and they understand travelling and playing in Australia. I think that's going to suit them. And obviously the young guns like Reece Walsh is just a superstar. In another year, another full season, pre-season under his belt, and Johnson back there with his passion for the place. I think the Warriors can be the side that does edge the 8.
Yeah. It's one of those things with the Warriors. It's, you always hear the meme, like, this year's our year. And I do like what they've done. And this year's, I still think, is a positive sign. I think a lot of people probably had high hopes, obviously, but look, you've just got to consider everything they've been through, like you said. So, look, I am the Sean Johnson. Like, I love that, but like 2 years in a row now, been injured, and he's going to be a huge part. They're probably going to lose Cody Nikarima. They've got an awesome forward pack there as well. It's really tough for me. Look, when I look at this, I almost want to say the Broncos, and you touched on some good points before. There's a lot of pressure, and when you look at it, like when you look at their spine, you look at who's going to be a hooker, who's going to be a 6, who's going to be their fullback. Now, kind of planning out in my head, like whoever's there, they're not in the top 12 in their position. Like they're not even in the top 8 in their position, Off the top of my head, Reynolds is class. He is a guy that's going to make things a lot easier for everyone, and they're going to have one of the best front rows in the competition. Kurt Capewell's a huge signing too. But I'm not sold on Kevy Walters either. Not sold on Kevy Walters. I reckon he's an awesome bloke from all accounts. But look, I just can't say to him. And with the Cowboys,
the big problem with the Broncos, just quickly, is that their 2 main players for next year is going to be Reynolds and also I've had a mental blank on what he. Stags. Sorry, yep. Stags. And that's the talk at the moment, that the rumor is that they're both going to be at the half and 5/8 for next year. Now, Reynolds is getting older, and his body is showing a little bit of signs of wear and tear. We don't know what's going to happen there. And Stags has been lucky to put 2 games together this year and most of last year. So there's a huge heap of pressure on 2 of their arguably best players, and obviously there's Payne Haas, but they've also lost someone like Tavita Pangai Jr., which was their second best forward. And yeah, he had his off-field problems, but on the field and on his day, for mine, he's one of their best players. So for mine, they're not improving that much, and I'm with you. I don't know much. I don't think much of Walters at the moment. So I can't see the Broncos making the 8 next year. And maybe, if anything, they can work towards 2023, but there's still some massive roster issues for mine of that club.
Yeah, I 100% agree, man. There's a lot. There's quite a bit to like when Tony Staggs plays, and that's the problem. When Tony Staggs plays, he is unbelievable, but he does look like a specialist centre too. But I still believe he can impact the game well enough in that role to keep him there and not having to shift him into a position to do so. Yeah, he could even develop like a sweeping role if need be. Obviously, we've seen with Tommy, we've seen with Joe Manu in recent weeks as well. But to kind of, to keep on to top 8 team, look, the Cowboys are almost always my trap team. I look at their roster, and like I said, one of my good mates, Griffin's playing for them. Got a bit of a soft spot, always have, even before Griffin was there. And you look, they went downhill as soon as Dearden went there. Now, that's not because of Dearden. I think it's more because it's not as Dearden the player, but just kind of going in mid-season, something that was working and just expecting to slot in when you're played barely any first grade. If they can get their lineup sorted early, and like you mentioned the signings earlier, they can. And the Dogs are interesting too. I'm going to probably go with the Cows. Like, once again, I'm getting trapped in once again by the Cows. They're probably going to finish 14th once again. But with the Dogs, I like, when I look at the roster, I'm like, man, this is a top 8. This actually is. But a lot of these guys haven't played together. That was the issue this year as well. And I want Trent Barrett to stick with his players. So, yeah, that's going to be an issue. Just them not playing with each other. And it's a bit of leadership. Look, Paul. Carry on.
I'll tell you a fun fact about these clubs I've spoken about is that all of them, bar the Tigers, changed their coach this year.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that shows that you need stability in your club. And none of these teams have had that at the moment. They need to really get stability in, and they need to pretty much choose right now. Is the coach ideal? Is their playmakers and the spine ideal? Because we need to pick up, we need to have the same spine and same coach for the next 2 to 3 years at least, like what we're seeing from the top teams, and then why they're always at the top now. They need stability. All these clubs need stability. The Tigers have a huge decision to make because the outside rumours won't go away because of the pressure that the club's doing. They need leadership there at the Tigers. That's their massive downfall at the moment. That's what they're missing. But, yeah, the huge thing is that all those teams, they just need stability. And until they get that into place and they can stick with some people, they're going to still be at the bottom.
Yeah, too right, mate. And just to kind of, finish off my point, it kind of leads on to the stability. They need a 7. They didn't, I'm a lot high on Kyle Flanagan and others. I just don't feel like he's been given a fair enough crack, especially this year when they knew their chances of making the playoffs weren't great. So give him a good crack. They're bringing him late. I think they've got rid of him again. So, look, if it's Flanagan, it's Flanagan. But if it's not, whoever they choose, stick with them. Find that suitor for Burton, stick it out, and then shake it up if need be. But I'm going to go after Cows. I like the potential of, I think, Holmes potentially is going to be your fullback next year. Dearden Townsend is interesting. I think Reece Robson and Cotter as a combination is quite underrated, but very much suits the style of game. And hopefully sort out the Tamalolo mess with how they've managed his minutes. Why about winning games now rather than resting him? Now, we're going to go on to the next question. Who's most likely now? The teams we've got up for this one, help me out if I missed anyone. Sharks, the Knights, the Titans, and the Raiders. Who is most likely to fall out of contention first out of these guys, Joel?
This year or next year?
This year, sorry, mate. This year.
Okay. For this year, I think the first side to fall out of contention, it's hard because all 4 clubs have not an easy draw. Like the Titans don't have an easy next 2 weeks, but after that, they've got a good run home. They've got 2 very winnable games. Where like someone like the Sharks have a decent run. I think it's going to go right down to the wire. I think all 4 clubs will have a chance of being in the 8 come last round. But I've just got to say the first team, because of points differential, that won't make it, even though they've got an easiest run home, is the Raiders. I think they might just miss out because they've got such a large points. Like the Knights do have a very large one, but they've got an easy run home. They should be able to, if they're fair income, they should be able to get back to a decent, like a small minus points differential. But it's a hard one because none of these teams are doing any good in their points differential. They've all got some easy and harder games leading into it, apart from the Knights. But the Knights have just been so hot and cold with form. It's so hard to tip them confidently every week. You always just think, oh, have I done the right thing here tipping them? So it's a hard one, but yeah, I think the Raiders will be the first one. But the Sharks have been dreadful. You got to say the last 2 weeks, especially last week, the referee and the Warriors were basically saying have this game, and they couldn't do it. So you could easily say the Sharks as well.
Yeah, it's funny. I've actually brought up because I saw you did a post yesterday or a couple of days ago, and you did your little ladder predictor, and you've got the Sharks in there now. I
regret that.
Yeah, well, but I understand how you've got them in there. But if I'm just looking off, like just gut feel and just what I'm watching at the moment, and just not looking too much at that ladder predictor, Sharks for me just would be. For me, maybe the way I'll approach this question is what team will look the funniest that they're in there? Like what team is like, okay, out of these teams, look, actually, to be fair, I don't think any of them have really played finals worthy footy. But for me, it'll be the Sharks kind of being like, okay, especially the way now with Johnson, like we talked about Johnson with the Warriors, with Johnson there, they're a different side. They are a different side. But look, for me, it'd be the Sharks to fall out of contention. Or, yeah, like I said, the team that would just like, if you're seeing them as your 8th team, you'll be like, you have to look again just to make sure you're not going not drunk or something. So
whoever loses Sunday it's a big telling point who will miss out, because it's Sharks v Knights, and I'm telling you, whoever loses that game can pretty much kiss their finals hopes goodbye, because Knights will think they can win that. Sharks are lacking obviously in the playmaking department, and the Sharks will want to bounce back. Whoever doesn't win that, I think confidence-wise, they'll be thinking about next year.
Yeah, for sure, my man, for sure. It is a crucial game. And we're going to stick with these teams. Now, I pose a question, who is most likely to finish 7th? And we can also add to this and saying who's the most likely team just to go as far as possible. Anyone to like the potential make an upset in the first round if they get there. I think for me, I think for me, the Knights and the Titans are probably the 2 contenders for this. What are your thoughts?
I'll probably the same. I think the Knights will probably finish the 7th. I'm pretty sure Knights and Titans play in round 24 Thursday night. So the second last round they play each other.
That's so crucial, eh? Those matchups where it's like would you say like
it's a 4-point swing. Yeah, it's a 4-point swing, and it's the fact of the matter is Titans have 2 hard games in the lead up to that game, so they're going to obviously be on the real edge of the 8 by the time they get to that, and then they'll be going. This is obviously pretty much early finals football game. This is must win. We need to win this. The way it is, there's no home ground advantage, so it'll probably be at Seabus. So for them, it's a home ground. There'll be crowds then up here, so that'll be a hard one. But I think whoever wins that will finish 7th. But I think you just have to say, just because they've got 2 hard games now, the Knights should get 7th. But hey, it wouldn't surprise me with the Titans' current form if they can somehow sneak in there.
Yeah, so the Titans are an interesting one because there's a team later on that we'll get to that has kind of been playing similar footy, but comparable to Titans in the sense that they've looked great and they've obviously been putting points on. They've been able to do that the majority of the year, but the defense has been questioned and they've been holding teams out now. But it's just, you look at it, it's like the quality of opposition, like how much do you look into that? And then even teams that maybe are mentally kind of, like we talked earlier, mentally looking towards next year as well. So it's really hard to tell. Toby Sexton's been sensational, like tremendous to potentially be. Now, what's the side looking like this weekend? Is Fogarty back, or have they named him?
Can't remember. No, they've named him on the reserves. He can't actually make the side, so they're happy with the combination at the moment. They're thinking about this year, which is nice to see a team think about that. But yeah, it's an interesting one.
He's looked the most like out of the 3 halves, the one that just now this could just be, just bit the excitement of being out there and wanting to take his moment, but just wanting to own own the moment and take on the line that just engage them a bit more. Where sometimes I feel like, look, Fafita's great in that, and he is able to create stuff on his own, but just give your strike players a little bit more options. Sometimes it just looks like they're creating magic on their own, and I've really been impressed with what Sexton's done. He just seems like he's been able to put his team on the front foot. Yeah.
I think he's the guarantee to play halfback for the rest of the year. I think the question mark over that spine is who plays 6 from now on and who complements Sexton better between Fogarty and Ash Taylor. I think they're the two that's going to have the battle in the run home to the finals, and then obviously if they make finals, play in the finals. But if I was the Titans, I've got told Sexton, here's a 7 jersey for the next few years. Fogarty for mine hasn't been great this year. I know he was pretty good last year, but we're now almost at the end of this year, so you've got to think about this year. And he hasn't been too good in my eyes. And obviously Ash Taylor, we just don't know what we're going to get. We've been stung too many times with him. 1 week he was all right last week, but the week before he wasn't great. So he's just really up and down. So I think it's a huge call. It's probably one of the biggest call for the Titans to make for this year is who's going to be that number 6.
Yeah, for sure. Like, you might just want to go with, even though he has been spectacular, maybe you trust Fogarty more just to to give what he gives. But if Fogarty's not the man, look, I was really impressed with Fogarty last year, and I did see him kind of going to next level this year. But like you've said, he hasn't. But if he doesn't make the side, I don't see him as a guy that will be kicking stones. I believe he'll still be beneficial to how far the Titans. He will be very crucial to how far the Titans go this year because he is a leader, and he's a very, he just seems like a good guy. Now, obviously, we're only seeing what we see from screens, but see from the TV screen side. But yeah, for me, I think he comes across as a very cool, calm, collected leader. And yeah, just the Knights have looked, obviously, Pierce and Pong, I believe it was only their second game together this year. They've looked tremendous. I shouldn't say tremendous, shouldn't throw that around loosely, but they've looked a lot better, a lot more potency in the attack. So yeah, I think for me, the Knights could potentially create an upset, which will get us to the next question. Now we're talking about the 5 teams. Now I'm going to put Storm on a little bit of a pedestal as a Storm fan, just going to rub it in, but they're the favourites. So we'll just put them by themselves at this stage. Now, out of those other 5 teams, so we've got the Eels, we've got the Roosters, Manly, Rabbitohs, and Panthers. Who is most likely to bomb out first out of those guys? Joel, and I think I've set you up here, mate.
At the moment, you'd say the Eels. Just fallen apart the last few weeks.
Can I get your thoughts on Kenty's comments?
In regards to what ones, because he's made a lot lately. That seems to be Fox Sports. Fox Sports seems to only want to talk about Gale's contract at the moment, which is quite funny. But yeah, which one? Because I've seen Cooper last night came out and wanted to start questioning the club. It's pretty rich from a guy that's getting paid from 2 different clubs and thinks it's all good. So
yeah. If we just have any thoughts in general, man, just the media criticism in general, man.
I think the media is a funny one, and the thing is these days, and I found this when I do my page, is that I'm not going to sit here and say I know everyone in rugby league and all this stuff, and I have the best rugby league knowledge ever. But the thing with media is that these are all people that have known the right people or qualifications to get to where they are these days. A lot of us who do these pages and things like that, unfortunately, haven't had that avenue. So we've had to go via, I guess, the cheaper way to do things, which is getting a page, slowly gathering followers so you start to gain a little bit of momentum. I've only just recently, it's been weird, when I've been out and about or something, a couple of people have started to stop me here and there and go, oh, you're so-and-so from League of Inches. It's been a bit weird, but it's been one of those things where I sort of slowly built it up. But I've often posted things about rumours and stuff like that, and I have people straight away go, oh, how do you know you don't have any credited sources? Well, I do. It's just that you don't see my face on the TV screens under a brand of Fox Sports or Channel 9 and the Wide World of Sports, things like that. So you don't think it's accredited just because most of the time those guys are basically just making things up. There's no quotes to it. There's nothing. They're just putting their ideas across and then hoping that because they've said Clint Gutherson wants $1 million a year and he's looking at signing with Penrith next year, they'll go, yep, that'll get clickbait because Parramatta have huge followers. I'll get my revenue from the Telegraph or wherever I get it from, and away we go. So I think the media plays a strong part in a lot of this being overhyped of what it should be. I only post stuff like rumours and things like that when I know there's some sort of credit to it, or I've been told by someone who I trust. I don't think a lot of these media do that. They just put it out there because it's clickbait. They get 2 cents a click on the website or whatever it is, and that all adds up. But my word of warning is to everyone out there, just be careful because it's sort of like they're going to treat you like sheep. They want people to just follow and so said it, so we'll believe that. It's not the case always. So I don't know if that answers your question about the media, but I think people just need to be careful because there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and I could talk to the viewers now, to be too big for this video, but stuff that was happening at Parramatta quite a few years ago, back when Dennis Fitzgerald and that were around, and I knew a lot of things that were going on there that certain media wouldn't actually report because Dennis was close to him, so they weren't they were on his side, so they weren't putting out the truth, so people would believe that side of it. I think be careful, guys. Dig a bit deeper, especially with articles. Make sure there's quotes and things like that, because anyone can publish anything these days and not have a quote or a source and put it out there. But just for your own peace of mind, guys, just make sure it has some sort of quotes. And look, no doubt Gutho's probably wanting a better deal, but it's pretty laughable that it's $1 million because even he wouldn't think he's worth $1 million.
Yeah. No, I think great work, man. I think you said that really well. And kind of just put my own little 2 cents. And I just did a video, like you mentioned at the start. I was doing a video last week, and I had a little snippet because there was a question that was asked about what drives me to make content, and why I do the video segments. And look, and a lot of your points mentioned because there's some. The media have an interesting way of approaching things. So we don't have a platform like they do, but if we keep growing, we can produce content that, I believe should be out there and kind of avoid what is happening and all this drama. So I just finish off of saying, if you want to know kind of more about me and my thoughts on the media, I'd go check that video out. It's on it will be very in my recent kind of post to kind of
and social media works like it's pretty easy to find things out these days. Like I have a few ex-players and current players that do message the page and talk to me just about general stuff. They talk to me about footy subjects that are post up. So I do get told quite a bit of things, and it's easy to gather information these days. I know we've gone a bit off topic with it, so to try and go back to the Eels. They're obviously in trouble. A few key injuries. Everyone's had that this year, so it's not an excuse. It's just that for a supporter, it's quite frustrating. I haven't got around to doing my video yet. I wanted to just about Para alone, but last year or two, it's happened where it's sort of the wheels have fallen off at the end of the year. It's an occurring pattern, and we were told about the start of this year that the players had learnt from it. It wouldn't happen this year. I know it is a dreaded run, and it's going to be pretty much a final series now and then a final series in a few weeks. So you've got to try and keep fresh for that as well. Look, we're guaranteed to finish at least 6. And the way I'm thinking about it, if there's Para fans that listen to this and they want to put a positive on it, if we get beat now, we rest a few players, let them get fully fit. I'd rather be versing the Knights first week, win that, go through, and having to verse either the Panthers or the Storm, maybe the Rabbitohs, depending on what happens in second place, get smashed by them and put your 110% into it, rock up the next week like we did last year. You're tired, you're fatigued, you're sore, and you've got to verse a good team that's either just had a win, so they've got momentum, because that's what ends up happening. You have to flip the draw, and it makes it just so much harder. So I guess that is the positive to think at it, but it is worrying. It's worrying the fact that we're just at this point of the year and it's happening again.
Yeah, no, it does seem a bit deja vu-ish, but I think you brought up some great points on why Parramatta fans can kind of put a positive spin on what could happen and kind of, what maybe might be the best approach. What I will say though, that Reed Mahoney loss is huge. Look, and it doesn't also help, like, if to answer the kind of look at it from the question, if you maybe think there might be another team that will fall, you might believe the Roosters are up there, but they've been trending upwards, somehow, some way they found like a sense of life about them. Be interesting to see how this Angus Crichton suspension affects them, but he will be back full finals footy. But yeah,
Also, spinner, I reckon the Panthers are at risk of falling.
Okay.
I'll put that out there for a talking point and just do something that hasn't been said because they've been going so well for a year and a half now. Now they've had a few injuries, a few suspensions. Coruscant's been in the media for what he did, which was obviously wrong. They're now facing a bit of adversity. They haven't faced that for a long time. Now they're going to return and get a lot of their good players back. Your Cleary, your To'o, things like that. Fisher Harris will be back after he's had his baby, but that could mix up the team, and they have had to deal with that for a while. Where other teams have had to deal with that on a regular basis. So it'll be interesting if the Panthers can deal with that, because that can easily just shock the system. Once everyone gets back on deck, you could mix it up a bit because you've had different players there. You're not used to it. If there is anything, because a lot of these teams, they just have that much momentum going at the moment. It's hard to pick. But I'd say the Panthers should be sitting there a bit worried at the moment.
Yeah, no, I understand that point, and we'll lead into the next question there. Who's most likely to win it all out of those teams? Now we're going to leave the Storm out because I think they're kind of, now I don't believe everyone thinks the Storm are going to win, but everyone's thinking to win, whoever wins is going to have to beat the Storm, obviously. So now my pick would be the Panthers still, especially, we're still seeing the rise of the Sea Eagles. Look, I think we're overlooking how good they actually. I thought the Seagulls played pretty well. Now I don't want to talk about the rest too much, blah blah blah. But I don't think the Storm were great and they got the job done. I think they're still working in Pappenhausen. They had a few key losses. Now, yes, no one's going to be fully healthy, but look, I don't think we fully went into that game with a set game plan on Tommy and how to, we what's the saying? We'd rather not show our full deck of cards. So I think when I'm talking about the most well-rounded teams, and just we've seen it all year, like except for the last couple of weeks, especially with the injuries, Panthers pose a huge threat. Now you've got a great point, fitting players in. They haven't dealt with adversity, but look, I felt like, I know they've had a whole off season to deal with it, but they lost players. They lost the grand final after winning 17 in a row. That's a huge mental toll. And they looked, at one point, we were talking about them being undefeated for the whole season. Like, it was a real conversation. If there was legitimacy to that, that's another debate. But look, I think To'o in the mix, I think he has been special. Fisher Harris has been unreal as well. And we haven't even talked about Cleary. So for me, I'd have to throw them as the most likely still. They just, they are. I think it's easy to forget how good they are on their day, but you bring up a good point. How are they going to gel with only a couple, with their full roster back? I think To'o probably comes back the first week. So is that enough? And just touching the Rabbitohs quickly, they were the team I was referring to when I mentioned the Titans. They've improved a bit on defense and they've still been great on offense, but who are they doing it against, Look, now, should say the Parramatta Eels, you could probably put some proof to that, but do we, like we mentioned earlier, they're on a bit of a decline. So look, how legit is this kind of improve we're seeing from the Rabbitohs? I'm not too sure. Who would be your answer to this one, mate, as most likely to win it all out of those five teams?
I think Manly, for mine, you can't be a one-man, and I'm not saying this disrespectfully, but you can't be a one-man team when it comes to finals footy, because every team there is good. You need to match up, and players like Saab and Garrick only go to that extra level when Turbo's there. If he is to go down, I hope he doesn't, because I love watching him play and he'll make the finals so exciting. But if he is to go down, Manly become just a completely different team. So for that reason, I can't have them, where most people are saying they're theirs. But I actually like the Bunnies.
Okay.
I know they've got their defensive issues at the moment, but I've said it all along, so I'm just going to ride with them at the moment because they're my preseason picks. So I just love Latrell. I love what he's doing. He's at the form. He's in form. He's ready to go. Cody Walker's starting to find it as well. Obviously Reynolds is leaving, and I think that'd be a big driving factor for everyone involved with that club. Same with Wayne Bennett, that they're both leaving. Both have been big parts of the club. Wayne in a shorter space than Reynolds, but has sort of had his imprint there. They want to do something special this year, and Wayne Bennett loves to time his run, and I just think he's timing this run perfectly. They're guaranteed at least a top 3 finish. I think they've got Penrith in 2 weeks. Huge game. I've got no doubt that might be a statement game. He'll then probably rest a few players in the lead-up. Don't be surprised if they do lose to the Roosters, I think, the week after. I think they will rest a few just to have that run timed. But I really like the Bunnies. I really think the Bunnies can be that team to really shake it up and put it to the Storm, which is going to be pretty impossible at the moment.
Yep. No, fair reasons. I think for me with the Bunnies, it's like I won't believe it till I see it. Now it's one of those things. It's like they've made the last 3 prelim finals, and that should be rewarded. But we look at the negatives because guess what? They lost them all. And look, I've got questions on who's going to be kind of that guy to step up in those moments and really kind of keep them accountable when things turn to shit, you know. I've always been quite critical of Cook in those situations as well. I feel like the best players in the game step up in those moments, and I feel like when his 4-pack's not going well, now, yes, a lot of the players obviously thrive with the 4-pack going forward, obviously, but when he's on the back foot, he struggled. Where some players are still able to, your best superstars in the game are able to, still make an impact when their team's on the back foot. Cook, I've questions been able to do that. So I'm just interested to see how the Rabbitohs are able to take on those moments and who's really going to stand up. Now, for me, if I had to pick a man, Latrell, he's been tremendous. He has been unbelievable this year. Really has. Look, if you really talk about the best players based on form, obviously Cleary and Turbo have been the 2 standouts. Look, if Latrell's right there for me, he is not right. He's the next on the door with maybe Jerome Hughes, based on just maybe consistency and been doing it all year and health and all that as well. But Latrell's been tremendous. But yeah, it's one of those believe it till you can see it type things. Look, I think we'll wrap it up there, Joel. If there's any concluding thoughts, have at it. But I think we've had a great chat. I'm glad we got to the Parramatta stuff. Obviously, being a Parramatta fan, so yeah, thank you for giving us a bit of insight on that situation. But yeah, have at it, man. If you've got anything else to say.
Well, I'm not that pleased you've picked at me and got the para stuff out. I've been like a caged lion and ready to explode. It has been pretty disappointing, but I actually think, as you just mentioned, I think it's been, when you sit back and think about it, it's been a pretty special year when it comes to individual talent on the field. At the start of the year, Pappenhausen was just phenomenal. People were saying far and away the best player in the comp at the time.
And we've forgotten about it.
Exactly. Cleary has then taken over that. He was phenomenal. That Origin 1 game, he was just absolutely streets ahead of people, just his game control. Then Turbo's come back and we've gone, wow, haven't we missed this bloke? And then in the middle of all that, you've had Latrell and Teddy for mine, who have both just been good as always, doing their steady stuff, showing their moments and games of brilliance. And then to add on top, just a little sprinkle of a young gun called Sam Walker, who's shown from the start that he's ready to take the bull by the horn, so to speak, and next few years is going to be huge for him. So when you think about it, and I'd love to do a video on this down the track, but in the next few weeks, but it's just been phenomenal. Really looking forward to all these players being fit and healthy come finals time. Footy's always the best when we've got our strongest players on the field. And if Parramatta are going to get knocked out, I'd love to just watch the two best teams and all the best players at once. Really looking forward to this final series because the more you think about it, I know the Storm are streets ahead, but that first top 6 teams can all on their day do something pretty special.
Yeah, nah, for sure, man. When you put it like that, it has been a pretty sensational season based on individual performances. And look, I think there's a lot to be excited about for finals footy. Joel, mate, thank you once again. Go check out Joel from League of Inches. Terrific stuff. Recently brought up 1K followers and on Insta and killing the game on all his platforms. So yeah, keep up, man. Really appreciate you coming on. And yeah, and that's it from me today, team. Have a good week, and I'll catch you guys next week.